What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Michelle, and we are discussing the penultimate season 7 episode for Outlander, episode 15, written in my own heart's blood.
Yay.
And no, I don't know if we're gonna say yay to that
We're
one.
gonna say yay. We're gonna say yay. We're gonna
Did
say
you enjoy
yay.
the episode?
Yeah, because my feelings for Jamie's a tad bit better.
Okay, okay.
So
So here's the
I
funny
have
thing.
forgiven him.
Okay. So here's the
So
funny thing about that title. Okay. So I've read the book. I knew what was coming. As soon as I
mhm.
saw the title of the episode, I was like, oh, this is that episode. I don't know why it took me to seeing the title of the episode before it clicked to me that they were being very literal about written in my own heart's blood, because the same thing happens in the books
Uh-huh.
with Claire and Jamie, and what happens towards the end with Claire getting shot, Jamie quitting his commission by writing on Whelan's back, I quit in Claire's blood. I was like, oh my God, that just clicked. He wrote it in Claire's blood, his own heart's blood. I was like, I feel so dumb. But then I started looking online, and there were other people who have read the books way before I did, who also were like, wait, I just made that connection. So I was
Oh.
like, okay, I don't feel so dumb now. But I mean, I was waiting for you to watch this episode. I said, okay.
But and see the thing is what okay, so last week you had said, did you see any spoilers? And I said, okay, I have only seen like in passing YouTube like pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, because there's somebody on there where it's not the truth. And I was like, okay, so I did see one, but I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And you
Mm-hmm.
said it wasn't truth, so then I wasn't expecting her to be shot because that's what their little screenshot was.
Ah,
Oh, Claire's been shot, and I'm like, no, she hadn't been shot. I don't, whatever.
no,
And
the
then you
one that
said,
I
don't
saw.
believe it, and then I was like, oh, okay, so she really hadn't been shot, so
No, the
I
one that I
wasn't
saw
prepared
was
for it.
literally a somebody had done a graphic of a tombstone with Claire Fraser, and it said RIP, and it says Claire from Outlander dies. I was like,
Oh no,
y'all
I didn't
doing
see
that
that
for
one.
some likes and views, because that's some bullshit if ever I saw it. Like, first of all, anybody who pays attention to this show pays attention to the marketing of this show, pays attention to
Mm-hmm.
the interviews and everything. We already know Claire ain't dead. Just like when we thought Jamie was gone, we were like, they have a whole other season of Outlander to film. You cannot do an Outlander show without Claire and Jamie. It's literally their story. So
Correct.
even
And
though,
if you
yes,
were
Claire gets
so
shot.
yeah, because if you were reading the books, I can truly understand because there was no other book afterwards yet, so you don't really know what is happening. But for the spot that I'm in, I know that Jamie's not going to die, and I know Claire's not going to die,
Mm-hmm.
which also bothers me in watching it
Really?
because I feel like I am putting in all of this emotion for something I know is not going to happen yet.
Okay. Okay.
Now, if this was next season and she got shot, I'd be like, oh, this is what I'm talking about, Hanako. This is what I'm talking about. What he gonna do? They gonna die together. But I'm saying it.
Yeah.
But being so early on, I'm like, oh, okay. She shot. She about to operate on herself. That's what I text you. She better operate on herself. She know what to do.
She seemed like it, didn't she? Because
Hmm.
she was like, okay, so the bullet might be in the liver. If that's the case, I'm going to go into shock and that will kill me, blah, blah, blah. That useless ass doctor who was like, oh, there's nothing I can do. We know there's nothing you can do. She told you were incompetent, like from the beginning
Right.
of the episode. So we already knew, but even so, when I said that doctor pissed me off, but he
Yeah.
was actually a little bit better here than he was in the book, because in the book, he was a thorough asshole through and through. Like, I don't even think in the book he gave her that respect that he did in the show once
In
he
the show.
realized, when he was like, you're a good surgeon, Dr. Fraser. I don't remember him doing that at all. I could be mistaken. Like I said, I've only read that book once and I was kind of
Hmm.
rushing through it, but he was, when I say, oh my God. I was like, can you get shot, please, sir?
Yeah.
Because first of all, we talk about the fact that, Claire doesn't get respect. She doesn't get the proper respect for her skill from the people who are quote unquote more learned than she is, because like she said in this episode, you think that there's no way that a woman could do this, and you don't know of
Mm-hmm.
any colleges that would allow the fairest sex to come in. Even with Denny sitting there extolling her virtues as far as her being a surgeon. She's one of the best surgeons I've ever seen. I've learned so much from her. And then when the doctor even says, "Well, what are your credentials?" He was like, excuse me, I studied here with this person.
Yeah.
So when I looked it up, the person that he says is his cousin that he apprenticed under
Mm-hmm.
is actually like, he is actually a historical figure. He's like well known in medicine. And so I was like, oh, I like the way that they tied this
Yeah.
together. But even that wasn't enough for Dr. Lakey. And I was like, you know what? You just need to go. Why are you even here? You're not. That man made me so mad.
He was useless.
Very much
I mean, he
so.
was he was useless, but
Very much
yeah.
so.
So I wasn't expecting because we get right to I wasn't expecting the
Mm-hmm.
shot at all. But when it was getting close to it, and then those guys were irritating each other, I'm like, oh hell, somebody about to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
And when
And
she
I
got
love the
shot, I'm
way that
thinking,
they did the way that they did the camera work,
yeah, the framing
because
of it.
you
Mm-hmm.
see Jamie's face, you see Claire's face, and I don't understand why Sam Hewen does not get more accolades for his acting than he does,
Mm-hmm.
because just even the subtle movement when the camera pans to his face, he does this thing where he looks and his face does a quick double take. It's almost like a jerk, as if he were the one who got shot. And then the
Mm-hmm.
facial expression is like, at first you think, oh my God, he got shot. But then the way his face changes, it's like, even if you didn't know that Claire was the one that got shot, you would know it by looking at his face, because his face changes from a realization of, oh shit, I got shot, to oh shit, she got shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very subtle, but it's very noticeable. And it's just one of the things that I love about his acting as this character, because you can tell if it was him, he probably wouldn't care. As Claire said in this episode, he would sacrifice his life, for his men, for his soldiers, for the cause. Sacrificing Claire, that is not on the menu. And just his emotion. Sorry about the camera movement. Apollo is walking behind my laptop. But just the emotion once he realized that Claire is shot, when he's trying to keep her from bleeding out, the conversation that he's having with Lieutenant Bixby, and then with Dr. Lakey, when Dr. Lakey says there's nothing more I can do for her, but there are other people I can help, and he basically is about to abandon Claire.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of that was, I really think, one, he wasn't able to do anything. There wasn't anything that
No, it wasn't
he
anything.
could do
He
because he
didn't know how
wasn't
to do
skilled
anything.
enough. I also kind of sort of feel like a little bit of that was ego. Was, I told you to come inside, I told you to leave, I told you would get hurt, and you didn't listen, and now this is it. I just kind of feel like that was probably up there too,
It's
maybe for a
both.
fleeting moment,
Yeah,
but
but
I
it's
still feel
both.
like it
I
was
mean,
there.
both as in I told you to bring your ass inside the church.
Right.
And two, this and now you're shot and I don't know what to do.
Right.
I have no idea.
And the
Like
only
he
other
has no
skilled
idea.
surgeon was gone. Denny left with the rest of them when they evacuated. So it, yeah, it was his reaction to all of that. And then of course we find out kind of right before Claire gets shot that, of course, Battle of Monmouth, we've heard of this in history, we've learned of it. Of course, they talk about it in Hamilton, which we
Mm-hmm.
referenced last week. So of course, during the battle, General Lee gets kind of afraid, he gets spooked, whatever. So he calls for a retreat of their men while Washington is telling them to press on. So this happens, of course, in the battle. Bixby comes back and tells Claire about it. And so General Lee in this one sends Whelan, which is one of the young soldiers under Jamie's command, to tell Jamie to come attend to him. And Jamie is like, no, I'm not going. And Whelan is like, but you have to come. You're being commanded. Jamie was like, what part of what's coming out of my mouth did you not
Do
understand?
you not
I'm not
understand?
leaving her.
No.
Like, do
Mm-mm.
you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
No.
I'm not leaving her. And they're like, you could get in trouble. You can be, you can be shot for a traitor. I don't give a fuck. Do you not see me holding my wife's insides in right now? So what he tells Whelan to do is to come around. He's like, take off your shirt, take off your clothes. And
And at that
everybody's
point,
looking like,
right, and I didn't know what was happening. Like, are we switching clothes? You can't pretend. No, everyone knows what you look like.
right.
I didn't get where it was going.
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, we're finna switch clothes. He's about to bloody up the clothes so you can see I can't come. I wasn't expecting what he was gonna do. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Which was to write in Claire's blood on Whelan's back,
I
sir, I
quit.
quit, Jay Fraser. And when Whelan turned around, he was like, show that to General Lee. He said, sir, he's in a foul mood. I can't. He was like, show it to him. I was like, you think General Lee is in a foul mood now just because he got shown his ass? Try Jamie in a foul mood.
Right.
That's what
And
you
you just go.
don't
You should
want.
even just go and tell him his wife is literally dying in his arms.
They don't, but see, that's the thing. They wouldn't care.
I know, but once you see the blood, you be like, he ain't coming because his wife is literally that's her blood. Can you wash it off, please?
Right. Right. But so you see all the emotion from him in that. And um, when Dr. Likey leaves, what did he say? What did he say? I hope your soul burns in hell and the devil salts them first or something like that. I was like, oh goddamn, he real mad. Then he was like, you I was like, okay. That emotion, like you get it in the book, but there's no way you can translate, like you can't get
Mm-hmm.
that from the written word. You have to see it in the performance. And he was so good in this. Like Claire is on the table dying, and she was like, you called him a whore.
Because you sitting there like, I'm dying, but this shit funny right here. What did you just
Right.
call him?
Right. But
Oh,
oh
okay. Okay.
yeah. But
Um, but I'm always gonna bring this up. Now, I'm hoping that afterwards, because Claire's going to be alive,
mhm.
I'm hoping that afterwards Jamie be like, you know what, this is what Claire felt.
Mm, yeah.
Lord John Gray felt.
Yeah.
Hmm. And and
And
being
they
in
didn't even have the benefit of a body.
no.
They just had an eyewitness
So
account. So
right.
yeah.
So maybe you can, I don't know,
I know.
be a little bit better. But okay.
Yeah.
But
But
I forgave him for this because he was that had to be a lot. You understand what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
it's different. I'm sorry, it's gonna still be different. It's different when someone tells you, okay, your spouse is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't have a body. They're just dead. Then there he
And
came
there's no
to and then
closure.
yeah, so you're like, oh my gosh, they're dead. I'm heartbroken, of course. But then it's different than what she went through where he went through where she is dying in your arms and you can't do anything
Shit.
about it. At
Yeah.
this point you were like, man, she should have gave me some surgery lessons. Should have
I
taught
don't
me some
think
things.
I don't think he would have been, but
I
even
know
if
he
she
wouldn't be. I'm
had.
just making that joke, but like at the point, but see, someone dying in your arms,
Yeah.
both of them is tragic, but the immediacy of I'm not sure if she's gonna live or die,
Mm-hmm.
and seem like nobody around me is competent at this point or cares.
Yeah. 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 But thankfully, I would say this, Lieutenant Bixby, that's family now. Because when I say he did not leave Claire and Jamie's side, like from the moment he turned around and saw them on the ground and realized what happened, he
Mm-hmm.
was there. He was like, okay, what you need? You need me to do this? You need me to do that? Okay. Like, even when Jamie was writing the resignation letter on Whelan's back, Bixby was the one that was there holding onto Claire, trying to make sure that she didn't bleed out. Bixby, you family now. Because when I say, if I don't think, I think if it wasn't for him, the situation might have gone a lot more, it might have been more chaotic.
Yeah,
But
it would have.
Jamie had something. Not only was he focused on Claire, but he had something to also kind of make him focus,
Mm-hmm.
because in order for Bixby to know what it is you need for him to do, you have to focus long enough to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
And when Claire, before she passes out or whatever, she says, Denzel, I need Denzel. Jamie's like, okay, I need you to go find him. Bixby takes off, doesn't
And go
question,
and get some.
doesn't say nothing, doesn't hesitate. I need you to go find Denzel Hunter. Shoom. And he comes back with Denzel and Rachel. And Denzel had to sit there and look at that situation.
You're like, okay.
Right. And was
Oh,
like, okay, so the greatest surgeon that I know is sitting on this table. Like, he literally just said that not too long ago. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this? How do I not fuck this up? Because at this point, they are family now. They are family. And you know that he's sitting there and he's thinking, like, oh my God, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? But I mean, I have all confidence in Denzel
I
because,
do
like he said,
because
he
yeah,
learned
he
from
learned from her.
Claire.
So I that's why I was like, okay, he's back. He'll figure it. You know what I'm saying? He'll figure it
Mm-hmm.
out. And what helped was Lafayette having those nasty cheeses delivered.
Yes, because Claire was like, wait, is Roquefort in there? She said the cheese is a mold. You can use that to make a poultice for after. I guess to
Mm-hmm.
stave off any infection or whatever. You know what? We like the Marquis. We love him
Yeah.
because he was like, oh, for Madame Fraser, yes, let me send this.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that part. But it was, even before all of this happened, one of the things about Outlander, I know we have some issues with Jamie and the way that he is behaving towards Lord John and just
Yeah, I
his general
do.
behavior. But going back to the beginning of the episode, one of the things that Outlander has always done best is the romance, whether it be, very explicit love scenes, or even if it's just subtle conversation. And I think the conversation that we see Jamie have with Claire in the beginning, when he's telling her about how her love heals him, how it
Mm-hmm.
takes away all of his pains, all of his scars, and everything. And then you see the conversation that's the flashback for them to the night before, them sitting up under the stars talking about um kind of sort of like destiny and about war, and Claire saying something feels different this time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, even without all of the other stuff, this is the core of who Jamie and Claire are. This is what drew us all into the show. Their romance, their love for each other. It's
Mm-hmm.
what endures through all of the chaos. And I mean, we've talked about it before. Their life is so chaotic. And even
It
back
is.
when they reunited, Claire was like, I just don't know if we belong together, because things always happen when we get together. And that is true. But you also see them push through it. And it's like they always come out stronger for it. And we know that that's going to be the case here too. Like, whatever tension they may have had over this whole Lord John thing, this
It
is
needs
it.
to be
This is it.
over.
It ends
This
on
is
this
it.
table. It ends on this table because I know in Jamie's mind, Jamie is like, you know what? What the fuck am I mad for? She's still here. She still loves me. We're still
Mm-hmm.
whole. Anything that comes before that, whatever, it's not going to be anything
And I
compared to the
understand
possibility of
how
me
she must
losing
have
her.
felt. Right.
Right.
And I understand how she must have felt.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, with you being lost at sea, there is no closure if that was the case. What would have happened if you would have never made it back? Or if it had taken more than a few months? It could have been a year and Jamie would have showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really think that this puts things into perspective for him. And again, it's just one of the things that Outlander does so well. Everything always comes back to Jamie and Claire. And you see it illustrated very beautifully in this episode. And I was just like, oh, okay. If this doesn't melt Michelle's heart and be like, okay, you know what? We're okay. We can still be
Okay,
mad
I
with
mean,
him for now.
I'm
But
okay
look,
with him, but I'm
mhm.
still hoping that he fixes his relationship
Oh,
with
he's
Lord
gonna
John
have to
Gray.
now because Lord John done saved William like in a big way.
Yeah, he has. I'm just saying. I'm just hoping that it does.
Yeah, they'll be
Because if
fine.
not, then I'll be mad again next week.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, they'll be
he's been
look
look. He been
now.
saved this week.
They'll be fine because look, Lord John and Ian were able to go save William. So I feel like that would pardon Lord John in Jamie's eyes. But now we got to work on William because now that
Oh,
William is safe, he is letting the emotions fly. And you know what?
it's okay though.
It
It is
is
okay.
because I'm sorry. I have to say, he handed Lord John his ass and he was very right to do so. He was like, so you raised me to believe that an honorable man was like being an honorable man was of the utmost importance. You raised me to believe that, a person who lies is untrustworthy and all this other stuff. And Lord John is
Mm-hmm.
just looking at him as like, stick the knife in, stick the knife in, stick the knife in. I was just like, yeah, I don't know if this is the time or place to have this conversation because I feel like William could have had a lot more to say. And, having this conversation the way that they did, just kind of quick and short, like he allowed William to get some of that anger out. But yeah, no, they need to have a proper sit down talk because,
Yeah,
again,
they do.
William has a lot of right to feel the way that he does. And even when Lord John is um chastising him and he was like, William who? Ransom, Ellesmere, Fraser, like who am I? What is my name? Who am I at my core? And I love that Lord John just tells him you're my son. And William kind of startles and he was like, you're my son.
My
I don't give a
son.
fuck what your name is. I don't give a fuck who your
Right.
title
Like
is.
boo infancy to now.
Right.
You're my kid. I'm
Right.
confused.
But at the
And
same
then
time,
the person that you would have named is a honorable man, and it's fantastic.
yeah.
And then I want William to turn around and say, only because you're in love with him. But no.
I don't even think William sees that at this point.
No, he doesn't. But it was nice because I was just thinking in my head he turned around and say that. Because the way John was talking about him, you'd be like, oh, you like him.
Yeah, yeah. I think he would, but one,
But nah,
William's
he's
too
not on that
heated.
page.
He's too heated. Two, I think also he's a little too naive.
He is. He doesn't know that
So
about his dad anyway. So
no,
that it doesn't.
no. And he
He doesn't get
probably
that.
doesn't have a lot of experience seeing that because of course back then it's illegal. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like you would see two men prancing around anyway. So I just don't think that's in his mind. But it is interesting because we had the conversation last episode about his relationship with Jane and how I feel like she would be good for him because she's going to make him look at things differently than
Mm-hmm.
the way his worldview has been
Right.
since birth. Like she's going to challenge him looking at people who are quote unquote beneath him
And
in a
just the
different
grays
way.
of things, because he's so black and white
Yeah,
that he'll start seeing that there's so many different shades of stuff.
right.
So you
Because
can't
again,
just take
even
it as it right or wrong.
yeah, because even in
Yes,
this
he raised you to
conversation,
be right. He raised you to be honorable, but there are some things you're just not going to walk around and be telling
mm-hmm,
truths to. That's
yep.
not necessary.
Just like the whole thing when he said never, never is a powerful word. Like don't ever say you would never do something
Yeah.
because what was it in the last episode when we had the flashback with Hal and Lord John? Hal told John, he said, please promise me that you will never give in to the idea of American independency. Lord John said never. And then in the next scene, we see him taking the oath of the rebels
Mm-hmm.
because he's trying to stay alive and
Stay alive.
he's in a camp full of enemies. So I think with this, even though William is sitting there and again, he's focused on the fact that James Fraser is a traitor. He went against king and country. I would never go against king and country. And that's when Lord John says, never is a powerful word.
Yeah, that's
Don't
that.
underestimate it.
There's
But
different things you may have to do for the situation,
right.
and luckily Jane is going to um teach him that when he rescues her.
Yeah. But I mean, but even before that, just I hope he really thinks about what Lord John says about Jamie, because he was like, he's an honorable man. He's a
Mm-hmm.
fine swordsman. He's this, he's that. And yes, it does sound like you can tell he's in love with him if you're looking at those signs. But even if not,
He just has
this
and
is a
not
man who
necessarily. I was
he
joking
has a
about a
respect
love,
for
but
him.
he has a deep connection and deep feelings for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was like, look, that is, and he has said this before, that is my friend. Like, if you don't understand the depth of feeling that he has for Jamie as a friend, just as a friend, let's take all the other stuff out of it. Just as a friend, this man married his wife, a rebel, in order to keep her from being killed, and told you that that was the most
Hmm.
fitting tribute he could give to his friend, was to save the wife that he loved so much. Dude, read the room. But again, William is young. He's naive. He has a very limited worldview about all these types of things because he's grown up sheltered. He's grown up
Hmm.
privileged. So he's got to come out of that. And I think this situation, and then now the situation with Jane, because while he was off being kidnapped and kept prisoner, Jane has gotten in trouble because one of the soldiers who recognized her from the brothel saw her in the camp, realized that she was the reason that Harkness is dead, and arrested her and took her for whatever they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to do a trial, but when Fanny comes to him and tells him what happens, she asks the question. She's like, are they going to hang her? And William is like, oh shit. No, they're not going to hang her. But I mean, they very well could. She killed an officer.
Very much
So
so.
again, that's going to be something that is going to challenge William's viewpoint, because I know, well, did you watch the promo for the next episode?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Mm.
So
I
I
did
will
see a picture though. So
would you see a picture of?
just her in the bed and Lord John Gray sitting there and Jamie behind them. I think it was like,
Oh, Claire. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, no. So so
That's the only
the
thing
only
I have.
picture. Okay.
And I
So
think that was
this
because it was in the article or something.
okay. So I'll just say this is not really spoilery. William does go to Lord John and says, "Hey, I need your help." So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
guessing he's going to go to his father to see if he can help get Jane out, because of course Lord John is a decorated officer. He kind of has some pull. But I think
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen with that is William is going to be reminded of his viewpoints towards being privileged and the people who are quote unquote beneath him, because I don't think Lord John is going to help because of what the situation is. She's a whore. Two, she committed murder, cold-blooded murder, even though she was justified in our eyes. In the British Army's eyes, she's not, because how dare you kill a man for trying to do what he paid for? That's the way they're going to look at it.
Yeah,
And
they are.
I think Lord John is probably at this point going to be thinking about their reputation. Like, okay, so are we really going to try to challenge the British Army over, quote, again, a whore? And I don't think I don't think it will be Lord John not wanting to help just because of that, but he is the one in all of this that has to think about appearances. He has to think about the optics. And just like when he went to talk to his nephew and Mercy and he told them why they couldn't get married and he gave his reasonings to Claire, he has to think about the way certain things will look. Of course, he kind of threw that to the side with his whole marriage to Claire, but maybe that situation as well, including the consequences of it with what happened with Jamie, is making him think like, okay, you know what? No, we got to be on the straight and narrow with this. This is how we need to react. This is what we need to do. So I think William is going to find out in a very harsh way that having those kind of principles is not, again, it's not a black and white thing. There are those shades of gray, and he's going to have to, I think, either figure out something else, or he's going to have to go to maybe Ian or maybe even Jamie, because
Mm-hmm.
Jamie and Ian are the two people who will probably be like, oh, she's in trouble, you care about her, okay, let's go. And they'll probably do it without hesitation. They won't ask questions. They won't care that she's a whore or if she was a lady of the house. They wouldn't care. All they're going to care about is William cares about her. She needs to be rescued. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go do
And
this.
she's important. Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's about to have his world challenged in quite a few ways. And let's just hope it has the results that we need. We need him to rescue Jane and bring her back to her sister. We need him to kind of rearrange his thoughts, or kind of just open his mind a little bit and say, you know what? Maybe this guy is not as bad as I think, because
Right.
I
Because
mean, if
he's
you think
all
about it, you loved him once.
right. And it's all the things that you were raised that a man should be. That's why this understanding that things is like a never situation or it's either this way or that way. Just the
Right.
circumstances of, and it was nothing wrong with your mom or what happened, like the circumstance of your birth, that's what they needed to do.
Mm.
And they did the right thing. And no, he shouldn't have told you. Maybe later in life, but not growing up, because that could have changed things. You could have been in danger. So just understand they did what was right and they loved you. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
loved you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't get that.
Yeah.
Jane is she's loving her sister, but they didn't have that. So, dude, get
Right.
yourself together. It's all right.
Yeah.
He has time.
We hope.
Don't say
because
it
we
like
don't because we don't know what the time frame is. Like, we don't know how long it takes to get from the British camp to where they were holding him,
that. Yeah,
and how long it took to get back. We don't know how long Jane has been gone. So it's just kind of, he has time, but he really doesn't. He's
yeah,
racing against the clock now, because if it's, especially with the way that they're going to look at her as someone who is not a noteworthy person killing a British officer, they're going to look to make an example of her.
hmm,
Especially if you have someone who's like we don't even know who she's been taken to, but if you have like Captain Richardson, and we already know what Captain Richardson is and what he's trying to do. If he realizes that this is someone that William cares for, and then he finds out that William is not, in fact, dead at this point, he may use Jane, kill Jane, just to try to get that advantage against William and Lord John Grey again. And that is something we really don't need her to be made a pawn. She's gone through enough in her life. So I hope they rescue her really soon. And we can look, we need Claire to get well. We need Jane to be rescued. And we need Jamie and Lord John to just kiss and make up and be done with it. Y'all got
yeah,
enough shit going on without
right.
this. So let's move on. I want a Roger and Buck show. I want to see them in a spinoff or something. I I don't care. When I say I love this bromance. I love it. I
But
just
because it's like he said, like, you're my son, you
like
know,
he
like,
said, "Aren't you all my sons?" Like all
right,
of
right.
me.
But it is true. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get back to my other son, but you are my son that I'm currently with who didn't help my other son. And I'm here for this.
Yeah.
I'm here
Yeah.
to help. I thought that was like the best thing ever, though, when he said that.
I loved it. I loved it. I was just like, can we keep him?
But I did feel him when he was like, "Well, you could have told me. You got to say something to your parent,
Yeah.
your dad. Maybe I want to say something to my mom and dad too." I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that wasn't the time.
It wasn't. And
They
when
were
he asked
hooking
that
up.
question, he was like, so your dad's a traveler. You're a traveler. Your son's a traveler. I'm a traveler. He was like, so do you think my parents are travelers? And Roger was like, oh, so we're about to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
not your dad. I don't know about your dad, but your mom
But
is.
your mama. And he was like,
Well, who my mom?
yeah, because when Roger was looking at him, he was like, oh, come on now. It can't be any worse than you telling me the year I died, right? Then when he finds out it's Gayless and Dougal, I will say this. I'm very glad of the reaction that he had because he was like, you let me sit there and talk to her like an ignorant fool. Because in the books, it's a little more different because of course in the books you spend a little bit more time with the characters because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the constraints of trying to fit everything in a 1 hour show.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of interactions and background that we have not seen on the show, not just with Buck and any other characters, but just in general. So in the books, there is a little bit of a flirtation between Gayless and Buck. And it's weird because of course Gayless is the type she flirts with any attractive man she sees. Buck, of course,
That
is
is true.
flirting with her because he doesn't know that this is his mother. And Roger is just kind of subtly trying to tell him, no, you don't want to mess with that. You don't want to mess with that. And yes, he tells Buck about her history first, thinking that's enough to deter him. But there is like Buck has an attraction to her and he can't figure it out. And it's just kind of it comes across in the book like he might have a sexual attraction towards her. But of course, he doesn't know that's his mother. So it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be weird to him to do that. So when the conversation finally comes out and he learns that that's his mother, there is a bit of a push and pull between Buck because he knows now in his head that Gayless is his mom, but his body is still thinking about her in another way. And so I don't know how they're going to do it in the show, but in the books, he and Roger at some point they go their separate ways. Roger goes to continue on his search, but Buck decides to stay where he is because he if I read correctly, there's someone else who comes into play here in the stories. I don't know if they're going to bring them in the show, so I'm not going to spoil it. But this person is in a kind of sort of relationship with Gayless, but he kind of gets pushed to the side because she also has an interest in Buck. So it comes across in the books as very kind of incestuous, kind of weird. You
Oh,
don't know
okay.
if they actually hooked up, but the implication is there that they might. And I was just kind of like, this is going to be so squeaky if they do it on screen.
Oh
So the
no,
fact that he
please.
had the kind of reaction that he had, I'm hoping they don't go in that direction because that would make me lose any kind of respect that I've gained for Buck at this time. Like, okay, I understand. She's an attractive woman. You can say,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, well,
she has, but yeah, she is, but she also has a strong aura about her too, which I
yes.
can get. And the thing about it is, it it'll be different if they set it up in the beginning where he was super attracted to her, and then now he's like, I'm so conflicting feelings
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But now they didn't really show that. So then for him to know and he wants to have a conversation with his
Mm-hmm.
parents, don't turn it into something sexual now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need that. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And I also love what he told to Roger, because one of the things that we always talk about is them coming back, or them, what are they doing that's actually changing the
Mm-hmm.
past, or what's changing
Mm-hmm.
history, or any of that. And Roger is basically like, yeah, so I probably shouldn't have brought you with me because of all the stuff. And Buck was like, but think about it. If your son hadn't have come back, if we hadn't been looking for your father, he said, think about it. My parents had not met before we were sitting in their house. If we hadn't have come back, would they have ever met at all? Would I be here? And in,
Just like that.
turn, would you be here?
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us would be here if we hadn't come back to this moment,
Yeah.
if we hadn't have been sitting in her house at that moment, if you hadn't been looking for your father. So it's kind of like all these things have a cause and effect, but at the same time, we don't know. I always make this joke: which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did they come back in time because they were looking for Jim, or was Jeremiah sent back in time for this event, for this series of events
Mm-hmm.
to happen? It's just kind of like there's no way for you to know. But what you do know is that if Dougal and Galus had not met right then and right there, Buck may not have existed at all. They wouldn't have gotten together. And granted, even though Buck wasn't born until years later, because this is what 1737 or 1739, Claire doesn't get there till 1743. So it's still a few years off, but that meeting, that put them in each other's,
Mm-hmm.
line of sight. So I think it's a very full circle moment for them. And again, like I said, I love that. I love that dynamic. And then when we find out what happened with him and his wife, again, I don't know if it's the way that they wrote the story or wrote the dialogue, but the way that he tells it, at first, when you listen to it and he talks about her being heartbroken over finding out that the person that she loved was messing around with someone else, and he goes to the barn and he comforts her, it almost comes across not very romantic. It comes across like, yeah, well, she was there and she was worse for the drink, and I took it. That's the way it comes across, like he took advantage of her. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, please don't do that, because it sounds very creepy. It sounds almost very rapey, and I don't want to think that this is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the books, again, going back to that, I think she was the aggressor in that particular situation, because she was upset, because she was pissed, and I think she was like, well, if he can do that, then I can do this. I wish they had shown that a little bit more, because in a way, it kind of, the way he told the story, it sounded like he was just kind of creeping, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant. I take her to America, and it just sounds very, and I realize this is normal for that period of time, but it
Yeah,
sounds very
and
controlling. It sounds
it
very,
does.
yeah.
But in the beginning, I was feeling the same way. I was like, "Oh crap, you are not gonna say that you like rape this woman." I
Mm-hmm,
did,
mm-hmm,
and but then as he kept telling the story, I see where he was saying it was his fault. I think he was. It did come across later that he just knew who she really cared about,
mm-hmm.
and
He
he
acted
took more
selfishly.
advantage of
Yeah,
the opportunity.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like it sounded like yeah, he did go to her, and he's been drinking, but she was like open to it because of the situation, even though he knew she really did care for that man. But hey, I care for her, so I'm gonna take this opportunity.
Right.
And he
And
took the
then
opportunity. And
further,
then when they came with the baby, he was like, "Oh, I really still want her, even though I know truly that's
mm-hmm.
not who she wants to be with."
Yeah,
And that's how he did her injustice. So, but in the
yeah.
beginning, though,
It
in
was
that
coming
slight
across
beginning, it was
real
coming across
sketchy,
like, "Did you? Are you about to say you raped her?" And then
especially
as
when you
he
started off by saying, I'm not a good man.
right,
I was like,
so, but then I realized, okay, you're saying you're not a good man because you knew she really loved someone else,
mm-hmm.
and you didn't let her be with that person
Right. And not only
until
that,
now.
she
And then
got
now,
pregnant. You married her, and then because of your insecurity over who she loved, you took her away from her country, took her to North Carolina. And I I thought it was so funny. And I love the fact that when he said after the troubles at Alamance, and they both kind of tipped their tipped their drink, like, okay, yeah, because those troubles were when he got Roger hung.
Right.
But
And now you see really where that came from,
mm-hmm.
because he's always questioning, will she go off with
Yep.
another man or
Yep.
find the love of her life?
Yep.
Like, I'm a constant, I'm not good enough for her because I'm not who she wants to be with.
Yep.
So now Roger can see, like, oh man, you just been living in basically fear
Yeah.
and insecurity about what's going to happen. That's why he's like, I ain't
Mm-hmm.
going back. She probably with her original boo right now.
Right. After all these years and after three children. Really? But I mean,
Yeah,
stranger things
yeah,
have happened.
yeah.
So,
People do it.
yeah. And I guess, like
Look,
he
look
said,
what Claire and Jamie been through.
he said she'll be better off, either she'll be with him or she'll be with her father. But either way it goes, I think he felt like, okay, you know what? That's that
Mm-hmm.
situation where I love her enough to let her go because I wasn't fair to her when we were together. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he's willing to risk seeing his children again, that's how you know how much guilt he feels about that, because he was
Yep.
like, you know what, they might be living a better life. Because also, if he does go back, what can he say to her? How do you explain where you've
You
been
been
all
gone that
these
long?
months, and again, not be taken for a witch? Remember, this is in the times when they are trying people for witchcraft. I mean, Claire and Galis, their
Yeah.
trial is just a few years down the road. So it's just kind of one of those moments where now he needs to figure out his place in the world and where he belongs.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really hope, like, I don't, like I said, he and Roger, they go their separate ways in the book. But I really hope that they find a way to keep him in the story, because I just love his character. I love their dynamic. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like seeing Buck and Roger more than I like seeing Roger and Brianna right now.
Yeah,
Not saying that I
I
don't
do
want
too.
them to get back together, but it's just kind of, it's a different, I think it's a different vibe, because with Roger and Brianna, you kind of, I almost want to say, you don't really get to see Roger be his own person, because he's part of a unit. It's kind of like Jamie and Claire, Roger and Brianna. You always see them together. It's all about the kids. It's about, again, their shared trauma, because they're afraid, they're part of the Fraser family. You can't be part of that family without some kind of drama. But it's always about that. And you never get to see Roger kind of be himself, not in the way that we saw him before they came to the past. Roger was his own person. We got to see him teaching at Oxford, and you got to see a little bit of his personality. And, so seeing him with Buck, and also, going through this journey of looking for Jim, finding his father, putting those missing pieces and questions into his mind, seeing the person that he is becoming as a part of it. And then not only that, but having this relationship with this relative who, a few years ago, y'all would have killed each other. It's just been so refreshing. And
Mm-hmm.
again, the dynamic between the two is wonderful. So I want to keep Buck.
And I feel like Roger needed it and Buck needed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how he ended up where he was.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing, because okay, this is the thing I was trying to verbalize, because we only see Roger now in terms of his relationship with the Frasers, because he has no other family. So it's
Mm-hmm. And we
nice to
see
see
family
him
now.
have family of his
Mm-hmm.
own for once with his father, even though that was so brief, but still it gives him a sense of who he is. And then of Buck, and I want Roger to have his own, his own little slice of whatever.
Right. Which means after this, I'm have some questions about Buck, but okay,
Okay.
move on.
Okay. But yeah, so
Yeah.
okay. But while they're having these conversations, they are back at Lillibrock because
Mm-hmm.
Roger says he can think of only one other thing to do to kind of push his family together. Because again,
Yep.
Brianna does not know where Roger is.
Mm-mm.
Roger knows where Brianna is, but he's still not 100% sure of where Jim is. Jim could still be
Nope.
there in 1739, or he could have never left 1980. He has no way of knowing. But what he's decided to do was he writes a letter and he puts it in that secret drawer that's in the desk in Lallybrock, because that is the same desk that's still sitting there in the study. And, he discovered the secret compartment when they first moved in. So he puts the letter there. At the same time, in the 1980s, Brianna has decided that she and the kids, for their own safety, because Rob Cameron and his folks keep coming after them, she's decided that they need to go to Roger. They need to go back to the past. And so she writes a letter to Roger and she gets ready to put it in that same drawer. And when she does, she finds the letter addressed to her and she was like, oh my God, what is this? And when she reads it, the first line is, Dear Bree, something happened. I didn't end up where I was supposed to be. And she looks at the date and it's 1739. And she was like, what the hell? So she reads Roger's letter where he gives her a brief synopsis. This is where I ended up, blah, blah, blah. I will find a way to put our family back together, because again, he doesn't know where Jim is. He's not going to leave until he
Right.
knows for sure. So at this point,
But he should. But again, I think they have a knowledge, and he should realize your son is not there.
and I think
Go home and try again.
he does, but at the
But it's
same
the writing.
time,
I know it's the writing.
I won't even
It
say
has to
it's the
be.
writing. I think for
He
everything that's
knows.
telling him that Jim is not there,
Yes, and
if
the
there
reason
is
he
a
was there.
small piece, if there is a small piece of him that thinks there is a possibility, I don't think he will leave without knowing for certain that Jim is not there. Because what happens if he goes back home and he finds out Jim is not there? Can you?
Right, and he has to go back, but he knows, like they have said it several times. He even feels it like he was there for, like, really, they realized the second reason. One, you put Buck's parents together.
Mm-hmm.
And two, you really, the most important thing was your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's what you were thinking of. Everyone been telling you weird people they have seen. Your son has nowhere been
I
one
know.
of them.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in time, it is like we tell kids when there's an emergency, there's a place to go to if you cannot get back home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now, your home is the base. You need to get back home and regroup
Yeah.
because you don't know.
Yeah.
Or you can go through the stones again and think of your son, and guess where you're going to end up? Home.
Yeah.
But you know he's not there
Yeah. But
because
again,
what you end up thinking
it's that
about at the
little
end,
sliver. Is that
that
little
little,
sliver. That's
no one
enough.
has seen the extra
I
kid. No one
understand
has
that,
seen the
but
kid.
I mean, if you think about parents in nowadays in present time, when you have parents who have children who have been kidnapped, who have been missing, kids who have run away, even when people are telling them, okay, the child is not here, the child is most likely dead or whatever, that small sliver of hope is enough
The
to keep
sliver of
them
hope,
going.
but you also have a gut feeling, and they
I
be
know,
going by the
I
gut feeling
know.
that their kid is still alive
But
and their
here's
kid is there.
but the
But
thing
your gut
is,
feeling is saying, man, we put ourselves at a different time to do this.
I
Your
know.
gut is telling you that.
Yes,
And
but
then there's evidence to back it
again, with
up.
that time, because you are going through time, you can't afford to make a small mistake.
You can't, but you know you can get home. You are not where your son is.
I know, but
You are nowhere
he
near,
don't know
and
that
you
for sure.
know it.
It's not 100% for him. It's
But
not
the sad part
100% for
is,
him.
well, as a TV watcher, I'm admit they have said it so many times. I don't know, in the book he had doubts. They are literally saying out loud, like,
I
"Oh,
know.
he is not here,"
Mm-hmm. I know.
but you still there
But you still, I mean, it's just like him going through the stones. He was focused on Jim, focused on Jim.
till his dad,
He had that one little sliver of thought about his dad, and boom, he ended up somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, or somewhere that
which was
he
great,
didn't think he was supposed to
right?
be.
Which was
So
great. So you still go through the stones again and be like, my son, my son, my son, my son, my son.
But we
Leave
have to
Buck.
remember, Michelle, they don't know what effect the stones will
They
have on them
they
going
don't.
back and forth. No, no, no. Listen, they don't know what effect going through the stones multiple times will have on their body. You saw what happened to Buck when they came back through. He had issues with his heart. So it's
Right.
not like you can just be like, oh, I'm going to go back home to 1980. And oh, if he's not there, okay, I'm going to go back through. What happens if they go back to 1980
So
and it
then
kills him?
your next thing is maybe not go home, but again, think of your son and hopefully that places you where he is currently.
Unless
Because
you
guess what your wife
unless
is
you
about to do?
unless you have
What
another
is your wife
thought.
about to do? What's your wife about to do?
Oh, I know, but see, here's the thing.
She
She
ready to go
doesn't
through the stones.
but she doesn't have a split focus because she knows where her children are.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. If we're all about that's taking risks, Jamie and Claire will take that risk. I
Mm-hmm.
understand going back and forth through the stones may cause issues, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're willing to take your kids back and forth through the stones, you can try to do it one more time when you know where you are isn't where your son is. Because what if he is in real danger in another location?
Mm-hmm. I get you. I get
That's
you.
what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The clues that you're saying, the clues you keep saying, oh my gosh, this is not the time.
Mm-hmm.
We were put here for another reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can attempt to try again. You may need to leave Buck because Buck may have some heart disease or something going on with him. But if your wife is willing to risk it to get to you, you can risk it to go home to check.
Mm-hmm.
Or not even go home to check, but in your heart say, my son is my home, my son, my son, my son.
Mm-hmm.
I cleared my issues with my dad, but my son, because my son needs a dad. Where is my son?
Mm-hmm.
You could try
Yeah.
and then leave her another letter. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
Because
we
she's
don't need
willing to
another
take,
letter because
she's willing
we
to,
got the one
she
letter he
willing to take
left.
everybody with her. And she'll know when she going. They just dress for the season. They're like, okay, we're going to dress for this time. If we make it, we make it. If we don't, we don't. Baby, all y'all just think of y'all dad.
Mm-hmm. But
It'll be
but
messed
again,
up.
at least she knows where he is because he
Yeah,
says
that's
in the
true.
letter. So
But
she
you still got
knows.
two other people who got brains of their own. So you got to make sure they focus.
Well, but again, they don't if all they're thinking about is Roger, they have no reason to think about anything else. Their
No, I'm
mom
just
is
saying,
right
but you
here.
still,
Their sibling is
right.
right here. Their
The
focus is not
risk,
going to be split.
but the risk, I'm just saying, she's taking a huge risk.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to give him that he could take a risk too.
Okay.
She taking two minors,
Mm-hmm.
your children. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know how this is going to end up because you
Mm-hmm.
really don't know how this will go.
Yeah.
So he can try.
I
That's all
like
I'm
I
saying.
said,
That's all I'm saying. One
like I
time.
said, she knows where he is without a doubt.
Right.
Her
I got that.
children, all they need to know is that they're looking for daddy.
I got that.
They don't have anything else that they need to focus on. Roger could touch the stone and be thinking about Jim, but if he decides to leave Buck back, is he going to have a split second where he thinks about Buck and
Well, then
end up
he
where
has
he
to.
is?
That's on his issues and working on it.
I
But
know, but
my hope,
all I'm saying, Michelle, is it's not foolproof for Roger to just go back through the
and it's not full.
stones.
And I'm sorry, it's still not foolproof for them either. But that is a risk she is willing to take to get their dad back. And that's all I'm saying about him. You know your son is not there. Your gut is telling you he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the plan? Because I don't see a plan. I got her plan. And her
Yeah.
plan is she, like you said, she is in beast mode.
Mm-hmm.
She in player mode. She like we doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Damn the consequences. We gonna find this man.
But
I feel
also
like he got the same thing about his son,
but
but
the
I
other
need
thing
him.
with Bree is she's also fleeing danger, so she don't really have too
No,
much choice
she
either.
fleeing danger, but that girl, I'm sorry, she got cojones. I'm just
I know
saying.
that. I know. But you got but
So she
also
doesn't
too.
hesitate, and she's very good with her instincts and her gut
Mm-hmm.
feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I'm trying to say with Roger. We giving her like, oh yeah, she know what she doing, but I feel like we should be able to say with him too is, you know what, sir, you do have that gut feeling that your son's not there. You're gonna maybe have to take a risk. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That he should be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna try it. And Buck maybe like, maybe no, maybe wait, let's keep looking.
Mm-hmm.
But they even both realize this may not be where he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not two extra people.
Yeah.
You're looking for a man and a child.
Yeah. I know. I know. But
Only a man showed
all
up,
I'm
and that
saying
man to
is,
be in your
and
dad.
we, yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like Roger has a little bit more to risk
He
if
does.
he does. So, and I'm just thinking that's
But she
probably,
has, to me, she has much more because you have two extra little people with you.
but she also has two little people who have a special ability.
They do
So,
together. And we don't want to end up in two different places because then,
and I don't think they would be because of the connection between Jim and Mandy, which you know has had only been hinted at, but now we kind of see that
no, they have a
it is
connection.
an actual real thing. Just like she tells them at the stone, she was like, I need you guys to use your connection to find daddy. I think that probably gives her a little more confidence as far as, okay, I can take this risk because she has I'm trying to think of how she has something steering her.
She
Like
does.
again,
But she
if
may
these
not be
kids,
with
hold
those
on,
two, will end up together.
hold on, let me finish. She has these two kids who are able to focus. All they need to focus on is Roger. They don't need to focus
Correct.
on Buck. They don't need to focus on anything else. All they're focusing in, all they're focusing in on is Roger. So that probably gives her a little more confidence about what she's about to do. Roger only has his mind. He doesn't have anything that's really steering him towards them. Yeah, he can think
Exactly.
about Jim, but again, he could think that split second of thought. That's what happened with him and his father, because I think I mentioned in the books, this is not the first time he's encountered his father going through the stones. He went the first time he tried to go to the stones, through the stones to find Brianna. He ended up back in the stone circle with Fiona because she went to the stones with him. And he says that in between space, before you go from one point to another, he
Mm-hmm.
briefly thought of his dad and he saw his dad in the stones. So Roger's focus, I would just say, is not as certain. And that would make me feel like Roger just needs to stay put and wait for them to come to him.
But then if you take, okay, so take the book out. If you just take the
Mm-hmm.
show, he's been doing good getting to the places he needed to be, going through the stones. This was the one time, but I can understand this one time because you still was thinking about your son. You was thinking about your son not having a dad like you didn't have one.
And then you thought of your dad. He
Because you thought
specific,
of right.
yes,
But
but
what
he
I'm saying is now
specifically
that you
said,
know, but now that you know how to focus your mind. My thing is, you exactly said it. Those two, yeah, they're focused on their dad, but those are two brains plus another brain that's totally separate. The two connected, they're gonna be together going through the stones.
mm-hmm,
Mom may not even get to the same place the two kids may get to. You don't know how she may switch her thoughts off at the
mm-hmm,
same time. So one versus three to me, when
mm,
Roger has done this before and he does actually know how to focus much better.
mm.
He
We'll just have
does.
to agree to disagree on that
I
because,
mean, no, but honestly, he does. He knows what you have to do to get to where you need to get to
yeah,
because he's done this a few times.
yeah,
He does,
him and
and
Brianna
I'm
both.
saying that he's not naive to this.
Oh no, I
He knows what to
understand.
do. Now,
Yeah,
when if you don't do it,
yeah. I mean, but we've seen that before with
but
him.
I'm just saying that you can still put that same energy that your wife is with two kids because they may not end up together. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The kids may end up like focus
But
on their
especially when
dad.
Mandy runs through the stones before everybody else does.
Right. You see what I'm saying? And then like, but guess who's gonna be with her though? Who's gonna end up at the same location she ends up with? Her brother, because they're connected.
Well, here's the thing. Brianna will end up there too, because at this point now, her focus is shifted to Mandy. So if Mandy's focus is on Roger, Brianna's focus is on Mandy, they're going to end up at the same place.
Right now, but we wouldn't know that if they just went lollygagging through the. First of all, we really do not know how these stones work.
Mm-hmm.
We'll think, well, they're minors, they're connected. The stones don't give a shit about who a minor or not. It worked probably during pregnancy. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what, but you don't. We don't know really how it all works, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all I'm saying. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is she's taking the huger risk of taking her kids.
Yeah.
She is.
But either way it
But you want your
goes,
kids with you, but you gotta hope and pray that they stay connected with you, and the Stones understand that minors need to stay with their parents. That's all you can work with. That's
yeah.
all she's working with. She has faith in what she's doing, and she has a hope that it's going to work out right.
Well, the other thing is she had planned on them like probably holding hands and going through the stones, but like she said, once she tells the kids, I need you to focus on daddy. And she puts the stone in their hands. Like immediately, she puts the stone in the hand and she tells Mandy, I need you to focus on daddy. As soon as she said that, Mandy turned and she was like, Daddy, and took off. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it is about Mandy, but it seems like whatever that telepathy is, the
She's
what is it?
connected.
We call it the magnet or the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The force is strong with that child
Yeah, it
because
is.
as soon as Brianna said, "I need you to think about Daddy," shoom, she found him
Yeah.
and she took off running through the stones.
Now I have another question since we're talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
So if Roger went around and it's been like a year and still hadn't found him, what was he gonna do? What was he gonna do? He's
I
gonna
guess
have
it.
to go back through the what?
Yeah.
He's
I
gonna
mean,
have to go back through the
yeah.
stones. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I was saying. Like he could have just let's not wait around when you know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But now I need him to stay.
Well, I mean, I I think I think he probably was gonna stay anyway. Maybe just for a few more days. Because I mean, you gotta sit here and think, okay, if he puts the letter in the desk, he's obviously hoping that at some point she will see it. She couldn't have
Right.
seen it before then because he didn't put the letter in the desk. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe at that point he would have thought, okay, let me stay a couple of days, let me stay a couple of weeks, see what happens. Because at this
Right.
point,
I got that.
all you can do is guess and wait. And then if nothing happens, then he could probably
You have
be
to
like,
make a
okay, let me
decision.
go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
But at
He has to
least
make a decision.
yeah, but at least at this point, he can try to figure out like, okay, so one, if Jim is not here, he needs to figure out what they're gonna do with Buck. Him and Buck are gonna need to sit there and figure that out. Like, are you gonna come back with me? Are you gonna stay here? You've obviously decided not to go back to your time. So, like for Buck, if that's his mindset, if he already knows my wife is better off without me, whatever, even if he tried to go back to 1778, I don't think he would make it because his focus is not there anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And he's more of this time period. So
Yeah.
he
So,
does well.
yeah.
Roger does not. So
No, no. Roger's too much like a
so
fish
if
out of
Buck said
water.
I will just stay, I think Buck would be fine if he stayed.
Yeah, but I don't want him to stay. I want him to,
I
well,
know, but he ain't gonna make it in the what's our current
the
time?
1980s. Yeah,
The
1980s.
80s. No.
But here's the
Mm-mm.
thing, if Brianna comes back with the kids and they find them too, you already know they are not staying in 1739. They finna
No,
go
so what they
find
gonna go they gonna so are they gonna go where I think they need to go?
they need to go back to Fraser's Ridge. They
Right,
need
that's
to
what I'm
find their
saying.
mama and their daddy. Now I
That's
don't
what
know.
I'm saying.
I don't know if they're gonna go to Philadelphia. They might go back to. They might try to. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I know then one they can't go back to 1980. Not right now. Not while that heat is on them.
But that
As
has to
far
be
as Roger
resolved before this series
and
ends.
see.
So they have to go back. So but then they
Well,
have to go back again because I need Brianna to talk with William. So I am all conflicted
right,
here
right.
when with
Okay,
time
so
travel.
So I would say this as far as the books, because again, we still have one book that needs to come out, so we don't know what's going to happen with them back and forth. One of the things that they did cut from the show is the time is like the time between when Brianna makes the decision that she's going to go look for Roger and the time that she actually leaves, because in the books what she does is, because Rob Cameron is actively trying to get after them. Like I said, in the books, the shootout and everything that happens at her house is way more. There's like a lot more chaos. Rob Cameron's face is plastered all over the news. So is Jeremiah's face, because it's a big news story,
Mm-hmm.
and all this other stuff. So what she actually does is she packs up Lallybrock, and when they're packing up the furniture and trying to make it so that the place is shuttered down, that's when she finds the letter. In the books, she actually goes back to the States, and they stay with Joe Abernathy and his wife.
Okay.
And during that time, she's getting all her affairs settled. Like, okay, this is what to do with the house, this is what to do with the bank accounts. She's doing all of this with Joe, and then she's also testing the connection between the kids, because she tells Joe about what's going on, and at this point his wife is also aware of what's going on with them being
Mm-hmm.
travelers and all this other stuff. So they actually do test with the kids. They're like, okay, we're going to go to downtown Boston. um me and Mandy will stay here. Jim, you and Uncle Joe, y'all get in the car and y'all are going to drive, and we're going to see how far you guys can go before you stop feeling each other. So they actually do this several times,
Mm-hmm.
because when she gets ready to go through the stones, she wants to be sure that the kids, like you said, can focus on each other, and then focus on Roger, because there is also a little bit of they know that they have a little bit of a connection where they can feel their parents is just not as strong as the connection they can feel
Yeah.
with each
They
other.
have for each other.
So
Mm-hmm.
all of that is missing out of the show. They don't do it. So I don't know. At this point, we know that they're going back to the past wherever they end up going, because we see them running through the stones at the end of this episode. Now, whether they go back to the future, I don't know, but in the books she has settled her affair so that if they don't come back,
Everything
you
is taken
know
care of.
everything is taken care of. So there's a possibility they could go back. I mean, I just don't see, at this point, I don't see why they would want to go back to the 1980s, except for the fact that, yes, it has more modern conveniences. Medically speaking, it's a little bit safer and that sort of thing. But literally, aside from Joe and Fiona, everybody that you love and care about is back in the 1700s. Your family, your parents, your support system. If I know that this guy is trying to come after me, and again, we don't know if Rob Cameron is a time traveler. We don't know if anybody that he knows is a time traveler and can send them after them.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that Bree took the letter with her, because if you think that there's a possibility of that, why would you leave that letter for someone to find? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know if they go back to the 1980s, but I know that if she goes to 1739, and she finds Roger, if they find Roger, they need to head to the Ridge, or they need to head to wherever Claire and Jamie are right now, which she probably knows, because she probably went through and looked at the letters before she left and was like, okay, if this is, I can't remember what month it was on the thing. Okay, let's say this is September 1980. So technically speaking, if I go back to look for my parents, it should be around 1797
Yeah, you got to figure that
September.
out.
So
Yeah.
she'll look at the letters and be like, okay, so they were in Philadelphia in September
Yeah.
1797.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go through the stones, that's where I need to make my way to. So there's a lot of
Sorry, Brianna got that good GPS on her. No, I'm just kidding.
but I mean, she really
She
does.
good though. That's what I'm saying. She's
Yeah.
good, but she's been doing this too for a while herself. So she's
Yeah.
really, she's good.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry,
I
Frank
hope they're
taught her
all
a lot.
reunited. But I let me tell you, when Mandy took off running, all I heard was Casey in my head talking about them kids need a
She
whooping.
need a
Like,
whooping.
I need you to
Yeah,
get with your
cause
parents. But if you are that magnet, if you are the strong one, because remember, Jimmy was even hearing Mandy when she was an infant.
yep,
He was like, "Oh, she can hear the stones sing too because she
yeah.
told me." Excuse me, what? She can't even talk.
Look,
She's only a
you
couple
don't like
months
that
old.
applesauce. You put too much cinnamon in it.
Right, right, right. So hopefully, Mandy's radar, her daddy radar, is strong enough to lead all of them through to where they need to be to get to Roger. Because, like I said, if Mandy is focused on Roger, if Jimmy is focused on Mandy and Roger, because he's like, okay, sister, dad, and Brianna is going to be focused on the kids, they're all going to end up in the same place. I have no doubt about that. I don't think they would get separated because that particular bond is too strong. I think even more so than Brianna wanting to get to Roger, Brianna's going to want to get to her kids. So
Yeah.
I think in the end, all will be fine. But we got to wait a whole nother damn week before we find out. Like, really? Y'all already made us wait more than a year for the second half of this season. And then y'all are going to make us have a break before the season finale. Oh, y'all are killing me. But it's okay. It's okay. We just know Claire better be alive, which we already know she will
Well,
be.
see, we already know that's the part I don't like because we know
Yeah,
that she's
I
not
know.
gonna die because it's
Yeah.
too soon. Now
But it's
again,
still,
if you did this 2 episodes towards the end, I'd be like, Hanako, here it comes.
but even with us knowing that she is alive, just like we knew Jamie wasn't dead, we still went through the emotions
Right?
because,
Yeah, I still was crying, but I'm just saying it hits differently.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? It hits differently.
yeah. Because when I saw what the episode title was, written in my own heart's blood, and like I said, I had that light bulb moment, like, oh, that's what they meant because Jamie wrote that note in Claire's blood. I was like, okay, this is the episode where Claire gets shot. Even going in knowing this, when I say I stress watched this episode like this the whole time, I was just waiting for it to come. And the fact that it came as early as it did in the episode, because I really thought they would probably leave us on the cliffhanger of her getting shot. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, we get her getting shot, and then we get everything in the church afterwards, all the way up until Denzel comes and starts prepping her for surgery. And I was just sitting there stress watching it. Like, I was feeling everything. And I was like, I know Claire's going to be okay. But still, like in the books, it's touch and go. So I'm just
And
like,
see, oh, and
I don't
oh,
know.
if
I
they
don't
did that as the season finale, then I wouldn't know either because next season could just be her touch and go, and then finally everyone gets to say their goodbyes to her.
yeah.
That would have been like I would have been like
Yeah,
done.
I don't think they're gonna drag that out because like I said,
I would be done.
now that we know what happened in this episode, I have a feeling I know what's gonna happen in the next episode. And I think I know exactly where they're gonna cut off. And it would, if they cut off where I think they would cut off, then I think we'll be good going into the final season. I think we'll be good. I think we'll be happy. Now, if they don't do that, I have no clue. But I have a feeling the next episode is going to be very emotional because we will be watching Claire go through her recovery. And that's going to be kind of rough. I do believe that we will see some kind of, maybe not resolution, but we will see something happen with the Lord John, Jamie, William, Jane, Fanny. Trying to think, did I leave anybody out? I think we will see something happen with that group. I'm not sure if we're going to see a full-fledged reunion with Jamie and Lord John or the forgiveness part, but I kind of feel like I agree with you as far as
Mm.
if this is what they had to deal with when they thought I was dead. then I need to be a little more forgiving. I need to be a little more understanding of what they did. Like I said, I don't think Jamie was really mad about the part about them sleeping together. I think it was Lord John's attitude, like, yeah, I had carnal knowledge of your wife, and I don't, and I'm not sorry, but I think that was the
Yeah.
because Lord John was trying to hurt Jamie's feelings because I think he was so pissed that he let all this emotion out. He let all of these feelings about Jamie out that he had previously kept very well under wraps, even with Claire. Like Claire knew he was in love with Jamie, but they never had such an explicit conversation about it. And I think the fact that he allowed himself to spill all of that and put all of that out into the universe, and then for Jamie to come back, like you can't take that back now. Whatever Claire had thought before Jamie died, as far as what Lord John felt, she actually knows it now. She's confirmed. Like y'all had a physical
Mm-hmm.
act due to the enormity of your feelings for Jamie. So I think he was more pissed off about that, and that's um why he kind of went at Jamie the way he did. Like, yeah, I did this and whatever, because I think he wanted Jamie to feel the same kind of anger he was feeling about Jamie's so-called demise and the events that happened after it. But hopefully they'll get that settled because y'all got way too many other things to deal with, because now Jamie will have to deal with whatever consequences he's going to have because you violated the direct order from a commanding officer. I don't think they're going to look at that very lightly. George Washington might, but at the same time, you can't let someone do that and just kind of let them go without there being any consequence, because if you do that, then your men start to question your authority.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting because again, we kind of know we know what happens between George Washington and General Lee, and we know about that divide. So maybe people will look at Jamie and be like, "Well, I wouldn't listen to General Lee either. That bastard retreated. He's a coward."
That is true.
Or they might be like, "Well, he's still your commanding officer. You should have known what he told you to do." That sort of thing. So I think we'll see some kind of consequence about that. But yeah, I kind of my biggest hope again, because all of those things are things that we know are going to happen. My biggest question and hope is that Brianna and the kids find Roger and Buck. And then I want them to go to Jamie and Claire. And I would like for Buck to stay with them. Because again, I like the fact that Roger has a piece of his own family with him. And I mean, it wouldn't hurt anything to have Buck go, back to that time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he could do that. He could even take on a different name if he doesn't want Morag to find him. But if they're in Philadelphia, she's in Scotland. She's not going to come looking for him, especially if she knows that he was in Scotland when he disappeared. Because I don't think she would have any reason to think that he would go back to the States. So she probably will think him for dead. He can stay with them in Philadelphia. I would not be mad at all. It would be great to have Roger have a piece of his family. It would not hurt to have another big strapping gentleman be on their side. Yeah, just take Buck with you. It's not gonna hurt. I mean, you guys kept Myrta alive and brought him back, and Myrta died in the
That's
Battle of
true.
Culloden.
That's true. That's
So we
true.
can do it.
That's true.
We
Yeah,
can
that
do
is
it.
true.
So yeah. You have any final thoughts about this episode?
Mm-mm. I just thought it was funny because I was like, Claire's gonna operate on herself. That's all I was thinking.
When I
Then when she was dozing off, I was like, no, I really want her to like be like that tough woman and be like, I got this, I got this. Okay, I need you to feel around. Oh, okay.
no,
Yeah.
Claire is very human. And it was so funny because when you sent me that text and you were like, "Oh, she about to operate on herself," I said, "Oh, okay, so she's gotten through the part where Claire got shot." Did it shock you that it was her?
Huh.
Did it shock you that it was her?
No.
Okay.
Because then at that point I was like, okay, I kind of saw a picture of that. I had thought that that wasn't going to happen, but no, it didn't shock me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I was just kind of like the way that they led up into it with the conversation of her saying something feels different this time, something feels different this time. And Jamie was like, you can't mean death. She was like, no, not death. It's just something feels different. And it was literally because, okay, you're going to be the one that's in dire peril this time and not Jamie. So it's always interesting to see the perspective change because we're so used to Claire seeing Jamie in danger and Jamie being, his life being put on the line and Jamie, and no telling how many times Jamie has been shot, maimed, whatever at this point. So to see it be Claire, especially when we've only seen her like deadly sick one other time, and that was when Malva Christie poisoned her. It's just always interesting because you get to see her be strong and still be able to do stuff, but then you have to see her kind of be a regular human. She can't be super Claire this time. It's kind of hard to do that when you have a bullet in your liver. So yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so we have one episode left for season 7. Then Outlander begins again. I am hoping that when the season finale airs, that we will get some information about Blood of My Blood, like a release date or an estimated release date, or that we will find out some information about season 8. I really hope that they don't send us into Droughtlander with no information because I will be so depressed because it's just this is going to be the last season.
Yep.
And we still don't know when we're getting a 10th book yet. However, Diana Gabaldon did say she will be releasing the title of the book sometime this year. So if she releases the
Okay.
title of the book, that means that we're getting a little bit closer to a release date. So fingers crossed. And I guess for now, that is it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media, on all the social media at Fandom Hybrid. You can chat with us on our Discord channel. You can watch our videos on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.